Spoiler warning, if you don't want spoilers for the Angry Birds movie, what are you doing? Rethink it, okay? Here we go. Hello and welcome to Badaptation, where we watch and talk about every theatrically released video game adaptation, their sequels, tie-ins, and whatever else we fancy. I'm your host, Finn, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, the buff film buff guy.
Hello.
This week we're covering the Angry Birds movie from 2016, directed by Clay Kaitis and Fergal Riley.
Interesting names.
Yeah, and so that came out in 2016, but the game came out in 2009. Did you ever play it?
So I think this is actually maybe it's not the first, but it's close to the first video game Badaptation that I did not play the video game of in some form.
The most accessible one too.
Yeah.
Free.
Yeah. Now it's sort of 2/3 of the way through the movie when they seem to do something that referenced the game.
Yep.
I was like, oh yeah, I kind of vaguely remember this.
I've seen the imagery.
So
yeah.
I'm not sure if I, maybe ever did sort of pick it up or just saw someone else playing it or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was definitely some vague recollection. But unlike, I'm not deep into it like my Super Mario lore or my Street Fighter. Guile's here. I can't, talk about it with any specificity the accuracy of this video game adaptation and how close it is to the video game, because I have no fucking clue.
I mean, it's kind of more like a mini game. That's how it started. It was an app. It's pretty much something you could find on like Miniclip on Newgrounds at the time.
Yeah.
Which is not really a coincidence. There was a video game on Newgrounds or something similar called Crash the Castle, which you control the trebuchet and you'd click when it would start and you'd click when it would release, and you'd try to knock over a castle that was made up of certain materials or whatever. Pretty much the exact same premise as what Angry Birds was, which was just flinging birds in a slingshot at some structures that was consisting of pigs. Same thing, essentially. It may have just been...
That's where the pigs come from. I'm learning.
Yeah. I don't really get
Did you play the game? Or the app?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, it was free, play it for a bit, and then go,
on your mobile phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, there isn't a bunch of lore to get into as far as I know.
Right.
Not that's worth it anyway. I mean, the red one, you fire it, and it hits things normally.
Which is precisely why this is so inappropriate to become a movie.
No, because then you've got the yellow one, and he goes fast, so they're different characters.
It's weird, like, obviously, there's been some monumental... stupid decisions where they've said there's a movie in this, and what comes to mind off the top of my head, battleships, or battleship.
Yep.
Obviously, I don't think they ultimately went through with it, but they were going to make a game based on Monopoly.
Yeah.
There was just a period of time, and when I say a period of time, I mean the period of time we're currently in.
Yeah, it's ongoing.
Where any IP must be mined for all it's worth.
I don't think now it's a matter of like, can we get a good movie out of this? It's, can we recycle the script that hasn't been picked up yet, insert a very familiar and popular IP that does very well in merch sales, combine those two things, and then release a movie that's subpar story-wise, because who cares?
Yeah.
But, very familiar brand for people that have either come across it in their life, like you recognized Angry Birds, right? Despite having never played it.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
You'd recognize if you saw a plushie or something
Yep.
of Red, you'd go, oh yeah, that's from Angry Birds. That thing I've never played.
Yeah. The eyebrows.
Oh, there's a movie about that. Great. That reminds me, I should maybe try picking up that free game again and just giving it a go. And now there's in-game purchases to go alongside the movie.
It's a very strange sell, though, isn't it? Don't you think?
Yep.
Like, because a lot of these video games that we talk about is like part of the appeal of it is like the fandom around the game.
Yeah.
And the story around the game and the fandom's appreciation of it. We're clamoring for a movie. Well, let's make this a movie.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, and I'm sure that I saw at the time that they announced this, I was like, who's clamoring for this movie?
I mean, it's essentially a puzzle game.
Yeah.
really, with identifiable characters in terms of,
Yeah.
this one's a red
sort of
circle,
like
this one's a yellow triangle.
Sort of like a modern day lemming, sort of, right?
Yeah.
Except you're trying to collapse something instead of get people to
it's
get the lemmings to the end of the thing.
Yeah. How do I use these tools to kill all the piggies?
Yeah.
There we go. And they're not fighting back.
Yeah.
Puzzle
now,
game.
Presumably these games did also spin off onto consoles.
Maybe eventually, but they're all designed to be played
on your mobile.
Yeah, because more people have mobiles than consoles.
Yeah, it is definitely like one of the of all the games that video game adaptations we reviewed. This seems like the most one of the most unnecessary.
But you can see how they got there. When
yes,
it's the first mobile game ever to reach 1 billion downloads.
Right,
which happened 3 years after the game was launched. That's an incredible number of downloads. I think that's a total of all of their apps combined.
Right.
So there's quite a few. And as of April 2022, it has a combined tally of over 5 billion downloads across all platforms. That's a lot of clicks, man.
It's popular.
Yeah, and I think some of those, not all of them are free, and some of them may come with, in-app purchases as they do now, the freemium game model where you get something for free, but then they put progress behind a paywall.
Yeah.
Or, efficient progress behind a paywall.
Yeah.
So you either have to keep grinding away and just keep playing it, getting barely anywhere, or you could just pay a bit of money and speed up the process. Yeah, not something I really agree with, but it's something I have participated in. Not Angry Birds. I played Marvel Snap for quite a bit.
Right.
And I'd buy like the monthly season pass because I thought like, it's like $15 New Zealand or something. But I'm like, I'm getting more than $15 worth of enjoyment out of this per month.
Yeah.
And then I just stopped doing that because I was enjoying it too much.
Right.
Neglecting other things in my life. Whoopsie daisy. Cold turkey. Cut that out.
That good old video game addiction. It'll just sneak up on you.
They put it on your phone so you can take it anywhere.
It'll really just creep up on you until someone complains to you.
Multiple people, perhaps. Well, one person, multiple voices. But with all that popularity and success of the apps games themselves, I mean, apps can be games. It begs the question that does it deserve a movie?
Yeah, and look, from my perspective, absolutely not.
I think the answer to that question depends entirely on how you interpret what deserving a movie means.
Yeah.
Is it a reward or is it a punishment?
Yeah.
For the game franchise itself.
Look, you've just kind of laid out in terms of brand recognition, high.
Yeah.
Very high.
Yeah.
And
they're very consistent with the big red fella.
It just seems weird. Like, I get it, but it's sort of like, it feels like in another time, the idea would never be entertained. Yeah. But like I said, we are in a different time now.
Yeah, we're in the now time.
Yes. Yeah.
But speaking of the brand recognition or whatever, but they're quite consistent with the naming conventions of their apps. There's quite a few. I don't know if you've heard of any of the following. So they started off with Angry Birds, what you'd now maybe call Angry Birds 1. They had Angry Birds Seasons, Angry Birds Rio, Angry Birds Friends, Angry Birds Space. Oh, but then Bad Piggies. Angry Birds Star Wars, Angry Birds Star Wars 2, Angry Birds Go, Angry Birds Epic, Angry Birds Stellar, Angry Birds Transformers, Angry Birds Pop, Angry Birds Fight, Angry Birds 2, Angry Birds Action, Angry Birds Blast, Angry Birds Evolution, Angry Birds Match, Angry Birds for Messenger, Angry Birds Dream Blast, Angry Birds VR/AR, Isle of Pigs, Angry Birds Pop Blast, Angry Birds Explore, Angry Birds Reloaded, Angry Birds Bird Island, aka Angry Birds Mayhem Simulator, aka Angry Birds Destruction Simulator, Angry Birds Journey, and the Angry Birds Movie 2 VR, Under Pressure. Any of those ring a bell?
They certainly don't.
Oh. Fat waste of time that was.
Well, I think it's interesting they had a Star Wars mashup at some point.
Twice.
and presumably that's them going to Disney and going, hey, can we use can we make these Angry Birds look like Star Wars characters?
Yeah, chuck a helmet on them.
Yeah.
There we go. Give them a lightsaber.
Genius.
Does it have arms or wings? Not really. They famously can't fly, these birds. That's why they get slingshot.
That'll sell another 50 million downloads.
And I wonder, does it tarnish the Star Wars brand? No.
Depends
Absolutely not.
where you sit on the Star Wars brand currently.
It's for children.
I have a Star Wars tattoo.
Yes. In terms of the movie, though, I have a brief synopsis. Red is an outcast on Bird Island, an island of flightless birds, as they point out. But why is he an outcast? Because everyone's mean to him. Why is everyone mean to him? Because he's a prick. One day, the utopian Bird Island is visited by a bunch of seemingly harmless green pigs. Our quote-unquote hero, Red, is suspicious of these pigs, but nobody believes him. Why? Because he's a prick. The harmless green pigs end up stealing all the eggs from the island, so it's up to Red to defeat the pigs via slingshot and save the day. Why? Because he's a practical fella. But I have some questions. When is the Fruit Ninja movie coming out? And who will play Barry Steak Fries in the Jetpack Joyride TV series on HBO? I think it should be Robert Downey Jr. I don't think he's doing anything too soon, is he?
Fruit Ninja.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another popular app from the time.
It's true. It's very true.
Yeah, it's got that brand recognition.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I went into this film angry.
Ooh.
Much like the birds of the title.
Furrowed thick eyebrows.
Yep, my thick eyebrows were in a scowl as I turned this on because I was like, I don't want to watch a fucking kids movie. I want to watch like old crazy Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and like, talk about, Jean-Claude Van Damme being on coke and, like to me, that's the fun of Badaptation.
But we've done that.
We've done that. But I also was like, couldn't it be a Resident Evil? We've got heaps of Resident Evils to get through.
And animated ones.
So I was definitely, one, I had obviously knew nothing about Angry Birds.
Mm-hmm.
But two, I was really like, obviously some of the movies that we watch are for kids, but they're a little bit for adults.
Yeah.
Whereas this seemed to be going to be, it was purely for kids.
Yeah.
And purely based off something that never needed to exist in the world, which was a movie of this game which had no story.
Yeah.
But all of that was quickly thrown out the window when I actually started to watch. Well, not when I started to watch.
Mm-hmm.
The opening scene,
yeah,
I was not happy with.
Right, yeah. It's the very kids movie trope of like, whoa, he's fallen and he's got to catch something.
And he's got something. It was very Ice Agey, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, that's a very good comparison, yeah.
Yeah, and it was sort of like, I've seen this before and better, and I'm not impressed with this.
Yeah.
And then basically the first altercation, he pie faces someone with the cake that he's bought.
Yep.
And he acts like a bit of a dick to them.
Yeah. To be fair, they act like a bit of a prick to him as well.
Well, that's right. He was on time. They said he was late. He was not late. Okay? He said by 12. He was there by 12.
Oh, wow. He was your hero in this movie.
So, I was like, okay. From there, what seems to be established, if we follow the traditional kind of kids movie, or not even kids movie, but kind of like we're setting up the story.
Yep.
The story is that this guy is angry. Too angry.
Ooh.
An anger that creates problems for him in his life. And the only way that he's going to live a happy life and sort of it all will become right with the world is if he learns to stop being angry.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I really don't want that. I don't want that story to eventuate.
Yeah. Conform.
But thankfully, the film kind of takes a real hard pivot.
Yeah.
After about the first 10 minutes, where it's like he gets told he has to go to this anger management thing, and you're like, okay, so far so predictable.
Yep.
And then he's got to learn, and then he meets kind of his group of oddball people that also have anger issues or some type of issues.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, yeah, they're going to teach him the value of friendship. He's going to learn to stop being so angry. But that's not what happens at all.
Well, no.
Some pigs show up. And if anything, he's like, we got to double down on being angry.
Yeah.
Who else here's angry? Yeah, you are.
Me being angry is what is like got us into a situation where we're aware of this threat. And we need to be more angry if we want to defeat this threat.
Yeah. So we got to go from Angry Bird to Angry Birds.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's the plot.
And so as soon as we had this kind of pivot, everything became way more interesting to me because I was sort of like, okay, now I don't know where this is going. I have no idea that pigs were in the actual Angry Birds. And I was like, and he's not having to, like, you know, there was this whole thing in Seinfeld. No one learns anything.
Yeah.
I was like, that's really valuable in comedy.
Yeah.
And so they decided to apply that to this movie. And things kind of pick up. The jokes get better. It becomes less, I would say, kid orientated.
Yeah.
Even in terms of,
you can say it's family orientated now because it's not just for the kids. I think that is the difference between like a kids film and a family film, right? Is there is something in there for other members of the family, not just the children. You've gone like, okay, stop pissing me off. Go watch this colorful thing and shut up. Like a Shrek or something, you know?
Yes, exactly. And I also felt like, you know, if you think about like animated movies, and what I mean by I mean CG animated movies.
Yes.
So CG animated movies started with Pixar movies, right? So you essentially started with the very best possible CG movies you could ever have. The highest quality, the kind of made by, you know, these elite geniuses that had come from Disney and Lucasfilm and all this sort of thing.
The first big one being Toy Story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they kind of set the bar super, super high.
Yeah.
And also, it was very expensive to make them at that time.
Yeah.
And Pixar was sort of way ahead of the curve. And then slowly, other sort of brands or studios decided to kind of throw their hat in the CG ring because they were sort of essentially becoming more popular and to some degree slightly easier to make than traditional animated films.
Yeah.
And in doing so, we kind of got these shitty ones coming from like, it'd be like it's no Pixar film.
Yeah.
You know, and then kind of Shrek was the first film where everyone was like, and that was DreamWorks that made Shrek.
Yes.
Everyone was like, oh, hey, this is like, I don't think it's as good as a Pixar film if you want to talk about like the resonance of the stories that they're trying to tell. But
I'm a huge Shrek guy.
Oh shit! Oh, okay.
No, that's fine. It's fine. No, like I loved Shrek growing up.
Yeah, but it was like you would certainly say it was very, very entertaining, super funny, lots of great stuff in there, and sort of in the same ballpark.
Yeah,
it was that was the first film that was like, oh, okay, actually, other studios are now competing, and then we sort of got. From that point onwards, we just got an influx, and then there was the Ice Age movies, which were also quite good. And
at first,
yep, good qualifier. From DreamWorks, and so then everyone was making them.
Yeah,
and so it didn't just fall into great Pixar, a couple of shitty everything else. It was great Pixar, and then kind of some stuff underneath, and then a lot of weird middle of the road films.
Okay, I've got one of those to talk about in my recommendations. Okay. One of those middle of the road, if not worse, films. Yeah, and
it also then, but in this sort of influx, it also became, it was no longer like I have to go see every animated CG film because I know it's going to be that top tier level and it will appeal to me as a teenager, young adult as well.
Yeah,
and like actually I have to tap out of most of these.
Can you imagine like if Toy Story had have been bad? You know what I mean? It really would.
Sure.
It would have changed the landscape of these kind of movies going forward because all of the movies that would have been inspired by that, all of the people like working trying to get the 3D thing going, and everyone that was against it as well, it really would have just cemented their ideas of what it really is. Of like, no, this 3D stuff, it's bad. It will never look good. The 2D's where it's at.
Yeah, totally could have never taken off if not for those films.
Yeah, and
not for the success of those films.
So successful that Toy Story 5 has been announced recently.
There you go.
All these years later.
And so, you know, it's this weird thing that, like, for me, I watched every Pixar film, you know, for the first 10 years of Pixar films, probably. Loved Shrek.
Yep.
Loved all the Shreks.
Yep.
No hate towards...
All of them?
Well, Shrek 4. Was it Shrek 4?
3, I think, was probably
one
of the worst. Shrek was the last one. Shrek 5 just got announced recently as well.
Yeah, certainly it got a little... They were trying, you know, look...
Diminishing returns.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So But at a certain point, I was like, look, CG films are no longer special anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Even Pixar sort of fell off the ball at a certain point.
Yeah, I think they've all like peaked at some point.
Yes.
And kind of
dipped.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so they don't have the same kind of cachet as they did. And certainly this film falls into that middling, like, yeah, we're all doing them now.
Yeah. Throw our thing in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is our one.
Yeah.
One of the big ones to come along kind of recently is Illumination.
Yes.
With the Minions movies.
Yeah.
They also were responsible for Super Mario Brothers, the animation of that. That's them.
Yep.
So they made their billions of dollars off that.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're not going away anytime soon.
Yep.
Especially what Minions 4 or Despicable Me 4. I don't know, but
Despicable Me. There's another one.
Yeah, that's not one I'm like. That'll be someone's Shrek.
Yes.
They're going to grow up with that, and that's going to be their franchise that they follow.
And I watched the first one. I thought it was fine.
I saw a Minion meme today.
I saw a Minion meme online. It was fine.
Oh no, it was someone's desktop background at work. I work with old people.
So it's interesting to see, I guess, because that has all happened in quite a short space of time, like essentially 20 years, I suppose.
Yeah. Like the very late 90s.
Yeah. And we're all sort of, I think, everyone at a certain point got CG fatigue in terms of like, we just can't watch all of these.
No.
And lots of them are not good anymore. And I really thought that this film would fall into, because it does fall into the mid category, no doubt. But I mean, we've just established there's no actual story arc really, because
not to base it on.
As in there's no sort of the growth of the character is. If anything, I should be more angry.
So I think you clearly enjoyed it more than you thought you were going to. So your expectations are very low.
Yes. Yeah. And like I said, I started off angry, much like the birds, but by the time I was at the end, I was like, you know what? I feel like this is one of the better films we've watched in Badaptation.
Therapeutic, even.
I was like, exactly. This is a nice palate cleanser to all the shit that we've had to wade through recently.
We did, during one of the movies, miss Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
So, we have been beaten by some of these movies we've watched.
Absolutely. And we just had to suffer through Borderlands, which was not one of the highlights.
Insulting.
Yeah.
And even an insulting movie.
Yeah.
To both my intelligence.
So insulting.
Both my intelligence and my other intelligence. See, I'm very smart.
So, yeah, it was sort of like, I actually was like, hey, this is kind of up there in video game adaptations. I was like, this is encroaching on like Sonic the Hedgehog territory for me.
There we go.
A little bit here.
And I think there's a lot of similarities with Super Mario Brothers that I've already mentioned. And I think a similarity with all those other very successful animated movies that we've talked about, the CG ones, is the voice casting. Like, there are some very well-regarded voice actors in this.
There's some heavy hitters.
Absolutely. Not when I'd say maybe C-tier, like, movie and TV actors, but, like, A+ voice casting.
Yes.
You've got Jason Sudeikis as Red. You've got Josh Gad, who's a Golden Globe Oscar winner. You'd know which one applies to him for his role in Frozen. He's just come off that, too, to come work on this movie. You got Danny McBride as Bomb, Maya Rudolph, you got Sean Penn, Kate McKinnon, Peter Dinklage, Bill Hader, Tony Hale, Keegan-Michael Key. Like, that was about 10 people that, they're pretty notable.
Row of talented actors /
mostly known for comedy as well.
Yes.
Which really helps because, then they can improv and they can, rewrite things and actually have something. I think they'll take more pride in this than a lot of,
Yes.
Did I say Sean Penn? Maybe I shouldn't have. He's in this, but I wouldn't put him in there.
What was he in this?
Okay, so this is basically my only this will be Don't You Know. I'll insert it in here. Don't You Know? Our favorite segment. So Sean Penn was Terrence, the big guy who just That's all Sean Penn did. He just grunted and murmured and growled.
And took a lot of money.
I bet. What a fucking waste.
So stupid. It's if you
Like, because who's he bringing in?
yeah,
Which audience is he bringing in? People are like, oh, I got to check out that Sean Penn animated movie.
like
He's one of the Angry Birds.
if anything, it's the thing where you go, a Sean Penn fan would specifically hate a CG animated movie because it's not, the dramatic gravitas Sean Penn.
And even like, I got to go with my son or daughter to go see this. Oh, Sean Penn will be in it. It's not even that,
No.
It's just, he probably just knew someone or went like, hey, put me in it.
It's weird because it's really the same thing with Vin Diesel as Groot, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
That whole thing was like, oh, it's genius. He just says one thing and it's like, cool, get a fucking normal voice actor to do it and don't waste your money.
Yeah.
Like,
Get a trained voice actor.
yeah, like,
I mean, they distort his voice anyway.
Vin Diesel is not bringing anything to saying I am Groot that a regular voice actor cannot bring to those words.
But I remember seeing like, news stories on it and seeing like, oh, but look at the commitment he's showing to it. He's doing it in like 16 different languages. And it's like, it's not hard to learn a sentence in 16 different languages, is it?
That literally took him like less than an hour.
Yeah,
he was in the booth for less than an hour for the whole fucking film.
You know what? Because he's an auteur. He's a man who's very passionate. He was on stilts when doing the voice acting for Groot because he wanted to get into the character.
It's because Groot is a tall tree.
What a fucking prick, man.
It's so stupid.
It's so dumb.
All of it is stupid.
The fact that people are like,
stunt casting.
oh, wow, that's so genius.
Yeah.
Is it? My character tall, so I be tall for talking to microphone.
Yeah. Or you could just act, which is your actual literal job, is acting.
Yeah.
Where you put yourself in the place of the character without having to wear stilts and assume the role.
But it made him be more tree. Stupid. What a wanker.
Yeah, it's silly.
But yeah.
Loved him in Pitch Black.
He's good at what he does. I just don't like what he does.
He's good at what he does, but he was not. He would still. I Am Groot. That was Groot. This is the same thing. Sean Penn, Groot, same problem.
Pretty much, yeah. Except I think Sean Penn did a good job at growling and grunting.
Well, he did.
Didn't he? Yeah, I like that character.
I believed it.
But yeah, other than like well-regarded voice actors and comic actors, which other successful movies have had, I've got some comparisons to Super Mario Brothers. So looks great.
Yeah,
the animation is amazing. Wouldn't be able to tell that this movie is 8 years old.
No,
like that's nothing wrong with it. Essentially, 10 out of 10 in terms of animation.
Great sequences.
Yeah. Great voice acting by a great cast. Weird needle drops of 80s dad music.
Very, very weird.
Like we had in Super Mario Brothers, I remember one was AC/DC.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. And this one you had Black Sabbath.
Yes.
You had Scorpions.
Yeah.
And at one point we get Rickrolled.
Oh, and Limp Bizkit's version of Behind Blue Eyes.
Which I will argue is better than The Who's.
And I'm not here to disagree. But what I am here to disagree with it being in the film. Because, as you said, that like this whole, again, that's certainly something that is slowly kind of wormed its way into these CG animated films is that we need a needle drop music of some popular music.
And the trailer has to have a slowed down, very gritty version of a song that's not particularly slow or gritty. Take a pop song, make it slow. Oh, now it's different.
And what I dislike about that, just from there's certainly an argument that like there's very few films where these kind of essentially pop songs that are not made for the film are appropriate. Obviously Quentin Tarantino's sort of the king of doing it.
Yeah.
At least genuinely speaking, he picks interesting and sort of weird choices. It isn't AC/DC.
And it's not, this will be good because you'll know it.
It's exactly. It's some weird fucking, Frank Sinatra's daughter, from 1977 or something like that. So at least it's like, to me, it's like a lot of thought has gone into that, and sort of that's better.
Yeah.
But this, especially in these animated films where you're really trying to create a world of Angry Birds.
Yeah. But you're also trying to sell a soundtrack.
But like sell a soundtrack of the original score
Yeah.
rather than the better selling soundtrack with all your favorite hits in it. It's so, it's like I always think that, generally speaking, a movie should have its own score, and that score should be tailored to the movie.
This had one. This had a composer.
Yes, as opposed to the other way around, where we shoehorn in music tracks.
Yeah.
And I, especially in this type of thing where it's like, here's this fantastical world of Angry Birds. Absolutely, just keep it score only. Do not blend our world of shitty music with this world of Angry Birds.
They did have some songs specifically made for the movie.
That's okay.
Which I think is actually just songs that would have been on the cutting room floor. Has it got some like good vibes? It's got a positive message, sort of. Yeah, it could be loosely related to this film. Okay, chuck the Angry Birds logo on the singles cover.
Yeah,
and then.
That's what I mean. I mean, who can forget? Vanilla Ice's classic "Go Ninja Go."
Go Ninja, go Ninja,
from
go.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
So I would rap the whole thing, but then this would get taken off all platforms for how accurate I could perform that.
Yeah, so I'm all for you making a song literally based on the story, and then having the performer in the movie.
Well, they did have some performers in this movie as well. I'll get into that.
Yeah.
They did have one inclusion of a song not made for the movie that I thought was like, that's a bit cheeky.
Right.
Which was one of the pigs starts like he sees one of the eggs that he's after. The thing that the evil pigs have come to steal all the birds' eggs so they can eat them. Yeah. And he sees one and he starts daydreaming, and it's why do birds suddenly appear?
Yeah, that's good.
I was like, that
works.
That's a bit, yeah. It's not like, oh, it's genius, but it's like, it's a bit cheeky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good on you. It's better than just like,
ACD or whatever
Black
it was.
Sabbath.
Black Sabbath.
Yeah, just here's that. Yeah, this is cool. This scene.
Yeah.
Your dad thinks so. But speaking of things for dad, so this had like a lot of jokes that would be, I'd say, like dad jokes.
Yes.
Jokes written by your dad. And then it also had a lot of jokes for your dad. But different. Like the ones from your dad, I'd say, would be like, oh, what even is gluten-free, Oh, what's that all about? Oh, I photobombed you. Oh, Insta-ham. All of that just like real lazy crap of like, yeah, a boomer would enjoy that because there's some slight wordplay.
Yeah.
You had Steve Aoki.
And John Hamm.
John Hamm. You had Daft Piggy instead of Daft Punk. Would have thought Daft Oink would work better, at least visually. Anyway, 50 Shades of Green. You had Hamlet. You had Calvin Swine. All of that kind of stuff.
Wordplay and pun jokes.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't so like forced down your throat than other movies that would be like way less resistant to doing that. There was more just like, it's a fun little thing in the background.
That's the thing. Like they weren't entirely reliant on that joke sort of scheme, which is kind of like that. We put you in the world and then we change a word that you're familiar with. So, and for instance,
pluck my life.
I did enjoy Rage Free instead of Cage.
Yeah, there we go. Because like it's not just a bird joke; it's an Angry Bird joke.
Exactly.
There we go.
And I guess we should talk about it because this was like the pinnacle of the whole film. Like this just made the film brilliant. So they have this heroic character, this eagle,
mighty eagle,
who we don't know if he's sort of like a mythical character or like some type of god to them,
an urban legend,
or whether he actually exists. And they go and search for him. Now, the first funny joke that I thought was they essentially go up to this peak, this mountain peak, and then they go,
"This is the wrong mountain,"
which I thought was brilliant because normally,
they earned that joke as well by showing the huge
climb
trek
and the
and
progression. And it was just good because in every other movie, everyone gets to that mountain looking at the other mountain, and yet they like they make out that they've arrived there.
Yeah.
And
like,
that's,
there it is.
Yeah,
it's
there
so
it is.
close.
We're right
it's
there.
like,
and it's like, you're not there. You're not close at all.
Yeah.
Which then followed up with a time lapse where one of the was Bomb? What's his name?
Bomb and Chuck.
Bomb basically had a mental breakdown, and they time-lapsed him sitting up there
Oh, yes.
just crying about the fact that they had gone up the wrong mountain, which again I thought was really quite interesting.
I think that was an opportunity for them to play around with the animation too, because it was a bit like stop motion-y, time lapse. Yeah. It was just like something different.
Definitely very unique.
Yeah. Let's not just make this the same the whole way through. Let's add a different flavor. Yeah.
And then that sort of builds to them going to Mighty Eagle's home on the other mountain.
And Mighty Eagle, the big eagle, voiced by Peter Dinklage.
Who was actually amazing. It was very funny.
Oh, he's known for it. But I guess the joke there is small man voice.
Right.
Big thing.
Yeah, I that's true. So they go to the Mighty Eagle. He's not home, or they think he's not home. And they go to the Lake of Wisdom.
Yes.
They arrive at the Lake of Wisdom.
Yes.
And two of them swim in the Lake of Wisdom.
Yep, it's Bomb and Chuck.
And they exchange
they're spitting back
water
and forth.
fountains.
Yeah, back in each other's mouths.
And they're just having the time of their lives because they're getting smart.
Mm.
And in fact, there's quite good jokes there. And to be honest, I was fine with that.
Yep.
If they just left it there, I was like, yeah, sure, fine.
Yeah.
It's good. But then ultimately it turns out that Mighty Eagle comes out, and it's revealed that the Lake of Wisdom is actually essentially his pissing pot.
Yeah, he's just been pissing out there.
He's just been pissing, and he has what is a geniusly, perfectly timed piss joke where he just pisses for a very long time.
Yeah.
And the reactions to that piss, and obviously the realization that those people that had been swimming in his piss.
Yep.
It was just really, really well done.
And so
loved it.
It had that type of joke where it's like, this is going on for a bit. It was funny at first, and then it's gone on for a bit. Okay. It's not really funny anymore. Oh, wow, you've really committed to having this go on. Now it's funny again.
Exactly.
It goes up and it goes down and it goes up.
It was just all there for me.
Yeah, there's an example of another joke that's like that I'll get into in the best and worst.
Okay.
Yeah. It's similar to that.
But to me, I was like, okay, I'm fully on board now. Yeah. I'm committed to this movie.
So what I found just a bit about that scene.
Yes.
Was it has been heavily, I guess mildly implied that Chuck, the character, has he's the more effeminate one.
Sure.
Perhaps even leaning on the side of is he a gay bird?
Yeah.
Or whatever that could mean in this world.
Yes.
There's one bit where they're imagining what they think Mighty Eagle might look like.
Yeah.
And one of them imagines as being yes, big and strong. And then as soon as it cuts to Chuck's daydream, it's yes, huge buttocks. And he's very very show off. And it's yeah. And he's the one that goes and suggested they get their nails done, all of those kinds of things.
True,
and it's just you're implying a little bit here.
Yeah.
I guess for comedic effect.
Yeah.
Is that appropriate? I don't know. I'm not the one to call that, but I'm also it's this is definitely a family film, not a kid's film. If you're doing that, just because of the way they're presenting it, they're not presenting it as a story idea.
Yeah,
it's just this random little what if he was a bit gay?
And he drank this guy's piss.
And they also reference a spit and swallow in that scene as well. He's can you guys stop? Oh, you swallowed it. Great. And I was yeah. And then it's revealed it's piss of the guy he's been daydreaming about. I'm okay. Weird.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting choices.
Totally on board. I was totally on board.
Love it.
And also even changing the Lake of Wiz, more like the Lake of Wiz.
Very clever.
Exceptional. So this, for me, this joke really just didn't turn things around because I was already enjoying it.
Yeah.
But I was I am laughing. I am lolling. I am laughing out loud at this. This is not a snigger. Mm-hmm. This is not a chuckle. Mm-hmm. This is a full-on belly laugh.
Yeah.
Good shit.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's probably it was best and worst. That was my best.
Yeah. So that was there you go. Yeah. Lake of Wiz.
Yeah.
So that's my kind of thing of this is for the grown-ups instead of from the grown-ups. It's the Chuck being implied to be gay. And then you also had one of the birds was implied to be a pedophile.
I missed that.
It's the one that was going around for free hugs.
Right.
And they went,
have you ever stolen anyone's children? Huh? I mean, you look like you would.
Right.
It's like, well, Jesus.
Little pedo
Like,
joke sneaking in there.
I guess, because they've also been grossed out about him wanting to like hug them. They're like, oh, don't touch that. I'm like, that's okay, you've got a pedophile bird.
Yeah, good stuff.
I don't think that was in the list of games I've had before. Pedophile birds, VR.
Well, also sort of referring back to the piss humor or piss and poo jokes. Is that so? Did you catch the other one where Chuck talks about how he got arrested?
Oh, yes.
And then, but essentially, it ends with him up a tree, and he's having an ice cream, and the ice cream drips on the head of the police officer.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Okay, maybe it wasn't an ice cream,"
Yeah.
implying that he shat on the police officer's head.
I hope that's what they were implying. The white substance dripping on the cop's head. Again, some implications, perhaps.
Well, yeah, okay.
So you have that.
One
right?
of those two. Look, I assume because, this
Bird
is
poop.
with bird poop.
Yeah.
White,
We've all been shat on.
Exactly.
And we've all been... Also, I mean, birds also have cloacas, so it's all coming out the same hole anyway.
There you go.
So there's also, randomly towards the end of the film, there's just a random Shining reference.
Yeah, which I did note here. Enjoyed the Shining reference.
Why?
Why did I enjoy it?
Mm.
Because I know the Shining.
Fucking hell. That's what I've been talking about this whole time. Just, I know that, therefore this is good.
That's right.
Yeah, did you...
Well, for me, that's... I was
shouldn't
like...
you enjoy the needle drops then of Black Sabbath? You know Black Sabbath?
I know it, but it's... I have no affinity. I think...
When you start being put in
Yeah.
the dad demographic, you're going to start liking kids' movies because they're going to be playing songs from your childhood soon.
Oh, well, no. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, The Shining is like a... it came out in 1980.
Yeah, but you're a film buff as opposed to a music buff. You know
But
what I mean?
I guess what I'm saying is like, to me, for some reason, you can give me film references in other films, and I'll enjoy them. You can't give me music, like that is not of the music of the thing. I
right, but this
that.
is also not a movie of the movie either.
Yeah,
it's not related at all. It's just like
no, there was definitely
hey,
there was 100% no tie-in.
No, not. There's no like lead into it. Like a lot of the jokes are like there's some build and
this was literally for people that are you a fan of The Shining? Here's a joke for you.
Not even a joke.
No,
like there's
here's
no
a
joke.
reference for you.
Here's some imagery, but it's pigs.
Here's a reference for you. Yeah,
lazy.
Enjoyed it. Good stuff. Great work, Angry Birds team on that one. Also, I also did really enjoy the line. We tried killing them with kindness. Now we'll just have to,
I think that was also kind of a reference to this is a kids movie and we can't say kill.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's kind of like a meta.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Yeah, it was good because we can't kill. We can't say we'll kill them.
Yeah. Also, like none of them die, right?
No one dies.
No one dies. People just get smashing through castle walls face first, and then it's like, whew,
yeah,
bit bruised. Yeah.
Also, there is a part where the anger management bird. What's her name?
I don't know.
She gets into the pig city, and then she seems to like fart on a bunch of people to blow them away. Did you catch that?
Oh yeah, I think she
What's
can
that?
like shoot bombs out of her butt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's probably a reference to the games, right?
Okay.
That's what she.
I was
could do in
like,
the
I was like,
games.
is she just farting on everyone, and that's her superpower?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've
We
got
cleared that up.
Yeah, I've got that. I can relate. That's my favorite character.
Do you?
Explosive.
Yeah.
And like there were other references to the games, like
Yes.
the giant slingshot for one, very obvious.
And that's the thing is like I got that was a reference to the game, and I was like, you know what?
They tied it in.
As far as tying things in goes, this kind of makes enough sense.
Yeah.
For it not to be like a total what the fuck moment.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, they got to get into the city and they can't fly, so slingshot them all in.
And near the beginning, he says, "Can you rate me 3 stars?" It's like a joke about like Uber and stuff, but in the game, you can 3 stars is the best score you can get. So it's like a game reference from the game that they're in.
It's good.
Yeah.
I would have appreciated that had I known anything about those games.
I would have pointed to that and I would have said, "I know that. That's good."
Yeah. There was a lot of pigs and birds showing their ass.
Yeah.
In different ways, whether it was them dancing, whether it was them putting their ass in other people's faces.
Yep.
There was just a real lot of it, like more than would normally I would be considered a sort of generic amount.
Yeah. I mean, they're all kind of just like round shapes,
And,
aren't they?
there
Just
was like that weird section where Mighty Eagle just is dancing in his cave
yeah.
and like jiggling in his ass.
Yep.
And it's like, And I was like, okay, where's this going? It doesn't go anywhere.
No.
They don't even talk about it.
Nope. They just go like, oh yeah, come on,
It's
hurry
just
up.
this weirdly sexual ass stuff throughout the film.
Yep. I think it's mostly played for humor, I guess,
Sure.
because kids find bums funny.
I guess.
Yeah.
Just seemed like a little like, what's going on with all this
Yeah,
stuff?
who's
What
this
do you-
for?
Yeah.
That's what I wonder. Yeah, who's this for?
Yeah.
Is there some weird freak that works there?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you Finnish people up to?
Exactly.
Is it-
It just made me a little suspicious.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, it got me horned up, so
There you
I
go.
loved it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was kind of what I thought.
You like the lazy jokes?
Someone,
I like
someone was subtly peppering in this stuff for a certain type of fan on the internet.
I'm a furry now, as of this
Exactly.
movie. Before, yuck, gross, what are you doing? Come on, grow up.
Those
Now,
birds.
oh, yeah.
Those angry birds.
I mean, I watched Lion King growing up, did nothing for me. But
Yeah.
Angry Birds,
Yeah.
jiggle, jiggle.
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
So, yeah, there's definitely just something a little extra going on there.
Speaking of things a little extra, you've got, your weird forced musical inclusions. You've got
Yeah.
Blake Shelton.
Don't know who that is.
He's a guy who's been on like 23 seasons of The Voice.
Okay.
He's a
Yeah.
very like
I get you.
arena country star.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those clean cut. You go on his Wikipedia, he doesn't have a controversy section. He has like a philanthropy section.
Yeah.
But I've just never liked the guy. I don't know what something weird about him, something off.
Mm.
And I don't know why. I think
Mm.
it's just kind of the fakeness of like I'm a country star. Also a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's in it and they've, you can tell it's him because they've given him all the same tattoos as real
Right.
life. And it's like, okay. There's also Charlie XCX,
Okay.
who's big right now. So these aren't bad piggies, they're brat piggies.
Mm.
I'm 30 and I don't know what I just said. And they've also got their own unique songs for the movie, cutting room floor crap. Same with, like Demi Lovato's got one as well,
Right.
It's just like, they're not known for these.
Whoever was doing music in 2016.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
You want to do an Angry Birds song? I mean, look.
No, but I've got this thing lying around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I got this thing lying around and I can exchange one word for birds.
No, don't even have to do that. This one's called Friends.
Okay.
It's about friendship.
There we
Has
go.
your kids' movie got friendship in it? Yeah?
Okay.
Cool.
Then I wrote this for that.
Yeah, I've always got this in the back pocket. Your favorite segment, worst hair? For me, it's just Blake Shelton for being in this.
Okay.
Or canonically, it would be Bomb.
Mm.
Because his hair makes him explode.
That's true.
Mm.
I would have to pick Bomb as well.
You're going to pick Bomb? All right.
Yeah.
Bomb wins. So in terms of best and worst
Yeah.
as well, you've picked your best.
Yep.
Like Wiz.
Yep, like Wiz
Do you have
for
a
me.
Do you have a worst?
Yeah, I do.
Mhm.
I do. It was ripping off the Flash/Quicksilver sequence.
Yes. Badly too, right?
Yeah, and sort of, and again, not to really dive into the logic and nitty gritty of this, but it's like, cool, if you can do that, why aren't you doing that all the time?
Yeah,
Shit.
it's always so
yeah.
inconsistent
Yeah,
with speed
yeah,
abilities.
yeah,
and same
yeah.
with like strength
Yeah.
and all that.
Now,
Also, to give them credit, they did it before Sonic the Hedgehog did it.
yep, so
4 years beforehand.
so they're ahead of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Mhm.
They were ahead of the Flash.
Yeah.
Now we need to get to the bottom of this. Were they ahead of Quicksilver and X-Men?
No, definitely not. It's from 2014, Days of Future Past.
Okay. So there you go. So that was my only thing is like, I kind of just get a little antsy, I get a little irritated when these films just do a scene from another film.
You mean like The Shining?
No, because they didn't do a whole scene.
Yeah, true. I mean, this didn't last too long either. I'd say it wasn't really a scene. It was more of like it was part of a scene.
Yeah. I was just like, oh, come on, guys. Come on.
For me, it was what I alluded to earlier of a joke going on too long, and then yeah, it's kind of funny, and then it just didn't quite hit those points it was trying to hit, and it was when they were practicing the eagle screech on the way up the mountain. Just went on too long, and it just wasn't funny to begin with, and it gave me a headache. I went, nah.
Yeah, so I wasn't on board for it at all, but I enjoyed the fact that they made it an actual story point where he actually had to do, the one that didn't like the screech and was being driven crazy by the screech, actually did have to do the screech to get the attention of Mighty Eagle later in the film.
And Mighty Eagle's screech ended up being accurate to one of the ones they practiced.
Yeah,
So
so you have to give credit that they, it wasn't just
yeah, but that didn't reverse the headache I got.
no.
So,
I'm afraid, yeah.
Best, I'll just have to say like the animation in general, like it looked good.
Did look good?
Good on it. It hasn't aged.
No, it hasn't.
Like you go and look at other ones, they've aged a lot quicker and a lot more. You look at Toy Story, look at Shrek.
Yeah.
So how successful was this film and how did people, rate it? And how will we rate it? Well, Glenn Kenny of the New York Times wrote, "The kids of today deserve better." So do I, come to think of it. So he wasn't as bored as we were. Wasn't as on board.
Yep.
And in his review for The Wrap, Alonso Duralde wrote, "Let's be clear then. The Angry Birds movie isn't pointless because it's based on an app. It's pointless because it's pointless." Can't disagree with him.
No, you can't disagree with let's look at the story in a vacuum.
Yeah. In isolation.
What is this?
Yeah.
What is the point of any of this?
Make money.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Right? It's a cash grab.
It is, going back to our previous episode, the perfect example of, can't you just like things to be entertaining?
Yeah.
Can't things just be can't movies just entertain you and have no other reason for existing or value or story or sensible plot? Because if so, this is fine.
Yeah.
And that is this.
Yeah. I'd hate
movie.
to think, during a film. I'd
yeah.
hate to contemplate.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. So it's certainly, that is a very, very accurate review.
Yeah. And I've read contradictory figures on the budget. So I've read there's budgets of 73 million.
Yeah.
However, I've also read estimates combined with the marketing budget to be around 400 million.
Wow.
So the movie grossed 300 million worldwide, yet it's also said that this is quite successful. So successful that there's a sequel. You know what that means? Money laundering. Or perhaps they expected more money to be returned through an increased interest in maybe the app or merchandise or things like that. And there was so much crossover. They were cross-branding with McDonald's and, they could get Star Wars on board before they got this movie out. So they're doing all right. And maybe Sony gets a cut of all of those tie-ins or some of them or whatever.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how could this possibly have made money and how could it warrant a sequel if it cost $400 million and made $300 million?
Well, that makes no sense. I read on Wikipedia that $75 million budget, and it made $385 million. Thus being one of the most successful video game adaptations of all time.
But the marketing was very strong.
And
a huge push for it.
And if you speculate that they dropped, let's just say $100 million on marketing, then it's still a good profit. It's ultimately it's a good profitable film. The second film though, Angry Birds 2, we'll get a little bit of extra trivia here. Cost, I think, roughly the same, or maybe 65 million. Somehow they slashed.
They always
5
do.
or 10 million.
I think they maybe they got rid of Sean Penn.
Yeah, because and it's to assume that the sequel was going to gross less, which it did.
Yeah,
it only grossed 150 million or something, which is drastically less.
Yes, but if they didn't spend as much,
but again, so how much? I don't know whether it was just the Angry Birds time had passed.
I think we'd have to ask.
The reviews said it was better.
Yeah, this is like the Terminator. That's what I keep thinking. I'm like, this is like the Terminator. The second one's better. Angry Birds 2, Judgment Day. But I guess to know how it actually managed to make money despite spending all that money, we'd have to ask Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
We would.
Yeah, because he knows. I mean, he told us that Black Adam actually was very successful.
It was a huge hit.
It was huge.
Number one on the box office, baby.
Black Adam 2 win. What's going to happen first, Fruit Ninja the movie or Black Adam 2? Overall, my one sentence review is that it's comparable to an average episode of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Which, I love SpongeBob.
Yeah. There are some episodes where I'm like, eh. And there are some great episodes.
Absolute zingers.
But on average,
So yeah, that's a fair review. That's a very fair review.
Thank you. Yeah. So, speaking of fair reviews, I give this movie a 10. You know what? I'll go first this time.
Okay.
10 out of 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
not
there we
bad.
go. Yeah.
I'm not gonna be mad if the second one comes up anytime soon, you know?
Yeah.
Almost excited to see
Yeah,
the second one, hearing that it's better than this. All right. And like the voice cast comes back.
Yep.
Pretty much as is.
Look,
Cool.
yeah, I was absolutely taken aback by the quality of this film.
Mm.
It was just far too good to be a video game adaptation, or at least the ones we've come to know here on the show.
Yeah.
And so it certainly was, yeah, you'd almost say it was a real movie.
Almost.
Almost.
Based on almost a real game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, whereas, yeah, lots of, blood rain,
Yeah.
that does not qualify as that is not a functional film in any respects.
Enjoyable.
I mean,
in its own way.
Yeah, in its own way.
Yeah.
And so, look, this was a much better film than Borderlands.
Oh, miles.
So, but this
just
is
speaking of that, there was a re-release of the movie Coraline.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a movie that did pretty well. The re-release of Coraline made more money than Borderlands did.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm going to give this 10 out of 28.
There we go. You liked it more than Gran Turismo.
That's what I wanted to make sure.
There we go. So we mentioned, movies of the lower quality of CGI movies.
Yeah.
And I've got a recommendation. It's a video about the movie Hoodwinked. Are you familiar with that?
I am very familiar with that.
So this video is called The Bizarre Story Behind Hoodwinked. It kind of talks about how this movie even got to be made and how they got everybody included on it. Because this is a movie that very low budget, quite successful compared to the budget. I remember growing up thinking, that looks like trash.
Horrific.
Never gave it a go.
I watched it. I don't remember a thing about it, but I watched it.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm sure I watched it after hearing about essentially how atrociously bad it was, how sort of many corners they cut in the CG and animation of it to make it a low budget CG film at the time.
Yeah. And you can hear and see some of those things in this video here.
Yeah, so
Eisenhart
I highly
Productions.
recommend that because I was actually trying to think of that film. I was like, what's that fucking horrible film that was like a barometer of like the worst example of this genre at a sort of time where the first people were trying. That's it. It's Hoodwinked.
Hoodwinked.
Released by Miramax or someone crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty much completely funded by one dude.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting story, and it almost made me want to go see the film.
Yeah.
But I won't.
No. And look, in good conscience, I cannot recommend you watch that film.
No, I can recommend that you watch the video based about the film.
Yeah.
But now we've got to spin the wheel. Street Fighter Assassin's Fist.
Wow.
Have you heard of that one?
I have not.
All right, this is going to be an interesting one.
Okay.
I think you're going to enjoy this one.
This is our 4th Street Fighter movie?
Yeah. It's quite a few. We're very lucky, aren't we? To get all of this out of the way.
Look,
have all the dreck left.
If you look at our to me of the we don't know how this one's gonna go, but we've had 3 Street Fighter films. I greatly enjoyed rewatching 2 of them.
Yeah, all very different. All 3.
Yeah, very diverse.
I've enjoyed all of them.
Yeah, and to be honest, I did enjoy the Chun-Li one as well. I mean, in a hate watch kind of way.
Yeah, in a blood rain kind of.
Yeah, exactly. There was, it was so fucking, there was so much shit stuff in that it really played well into this podcast.
I think that is it's one of the
Synergy.
core. Yeah.
Synergy.
It's one of the core reasons this podcast exists is movies like that.
Yes.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah,
because I wouldn't have gone out of my way to watch that.
No.
Yeah. If not for this.
Yeah.
And speaking of this, if you like what we do, which is this, please consider following us using the links in the show notes or description and leave good reviews if you want. It means a lot and it means our little project can grow.
Thank you very much. And we'll see you next time.
Street Fighter's Assassin's Fist.